out there in video land. This is Bob Robinson, and I'm here at the Placentia Chamber. We've got a little video series hoping to help you with your business. And today I'm interviewing Eric Holmgren with Gryphon Fencing. Eric, welcome.
Welcome, Bob.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So Eric, something I was really interested in specifically from you. Explain to me where Holmgren comes from. That's not like Smith out here.
It's not. It's Scandinavian. It's Swedish, and normally in Sweden and Scandinavia you have names that are like yours, Robinson, son of Robin, or Jorgensen, son of Jorgen.
Sure.
So Holmgren is a place name, and it's in Swedish it translates to an island in the middle of the river. So maybe at some point, hundreds of years ago, my family or ancestors lived on an island in the middle of a river, and that's how they got that name. They were the Eric of the island in the middle of the river.
There you go.
Yeah, so there you have it.
So when did you start Gryphon Fencing?
We started it about 9-10 years ago now. Yeah.
Very good. What was the impetus to do that?
I've been the fencing coach at the University of California at Irvine since 1993. So I've been fencing for quite a while, and I've been a coach for a long time. And I had a number of friends of my children who were pestering me to teach their children fencing. And of course the university wouldn't let them in because they were not old enough and connected. And so then I had enough people pestering me that I said, well, we'll start our own program up here in Placentia. And so that happened 10 years ago. And we got started with that and then went on from there.
Fencing is an Olympic sport, right?
That's correct.
Have you done anything with Olympic people?
I have. When the Olympics were here in 1984, I went and I watched gymnastics and basketball. And so that was my trip to the Olympics. Yeah.
Have you coached anybody that's went to the Olympics?
Actually, there's a young man who started with us as a fencer, and then he switched over and he was one of my archery students for a number of years. And now he is one of the top archers in the United States. He is on our World Cup team, and he's on the path to the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Now, I have not been working with him since, but I got him started. He started off with me. He's worked with a lot of great coaches since then.
So is getting someplace like a fencing studio, is that hard to do?
It was definitely a challenge, and part of the reason why it was a challenge is the space we need is, if you've been there, we need these long spaces so the fencers can move back and forth. And so trying to find a building that had the right dimensions and enough parking for a bunch of people and opportunities for easy access to the freeway and things like that was really challenging. And when we were looking for spaces, we found a number of them that fit exactly what we wanted, but we realized that there were zoning issues or there were city ordinances that made it problematic for us to use those places.
What kind of an ordinance would that be?
Well, what we discovered was, particularly with the city of Placentia, that the conditional use permits and the whole permitting process was very onerous. That is, it was intentionally designed to be tough for businesses to open. And one of the things finding out, talking to people who've been involved in the city for a number of years, was that back in the 60s, they did not want a lot of businesses in the city. They wanted the city to be mostly just a bedroom community. And I mean, if you're a longtime resident, you know that there were no drive-throughs in the city of Placentia for decades because they didn't want anyone getting off the freeway and coming to see us. Unless you lived here, they didn't want that. Seriously.
Wow.
So our business zoning codes and everything else were really antiquated. And so comparing, looking at the other neighboring cities like Anaheim and Brea and Fullerton, the ordinances were much easier. The idea of getting a space there was much easier. But because I'm a longtime Placentia resident, I really wanted to try to be in Placentia. And so I talked with some of the folks at City Hall about this, and many of them realized that this was a real problem. It was becoming an issue for city finances because there wasn't as much land available that they could then gain money from
Right.
by developing new land. They needed to rely now on businesses to help the city pay for its bills.
And this was when?
This was 10 years ago. So this was back in
2009?
Yep, 2009, 2010. So began working with some folks over in the Planning Commission, and then we proposed or had a law proposed to the City Council that would then make the whole zoning process and the whole conditional use permit process faster and less expensive, so that businesses could get started much more quickly than what was going on previously, and to try to make the city more competitive with other cities as far as attracting business. So we often hear the phrase, "You can't fight City Hall."
Right.
That's not true.
So you fought.
I not only fought, it's not so much that, I worked with City Hall. So I worked with folks on the City Council, worked with people in the Planning Commission, worked with people that were involved with the city administration to make these changes take effect, because everyone recognized that it was in the best interest of the city to do that.
So you had to work with a lot of different people.
Worked with a lot of different people, but also worked within our democratic process. You know, it's really easy for us to get depressed with what we read in the newspaper. It doesn't matter which side of the political aisle you are.
Right.
It can be really depressing. But we have to realize that the government is us. And
Sure.
so if we want to affect a change, we've got to go about doing it and try to work to see it happen. And so what was nice was, after we'd had this law changed, it helped us to get a spot that we liked here in the city and stay in the city.
Right.
It saved us money. It allowed us to start our business sooner and start to serve the community sooner. But then I would hear from other businesses who'd opened up saying, "Oh yeah, we used this new thing, da-da." And I would just smile to myself and say, "Aha, that was me." You know,
Yeah.
I helped that and make that
Yeah.
happen.
So what's your piece of advice here?
My piece of advice would be, don't take no for an answer. Oftentimes, particularly when we come up against the government entity,
Yeah.
you know, it's easy for us to, you know, just be intimidated and to, you know, quit or give up. What I saw with my experience, not only with the city government, but with some other issues I've had doing with government entities as the fencing coach at UC Irvine, where I have to deal with administration there too, is you have to keep asking questions, and you have to keep kind of moving through the maze of things in order to make things happen, and talk to people and work with people. Just don't take no for an answer. Try to find out, well, who's your supervisor? Who could make a decision on this? Where could we go if we wanted to change this? Where would we go next? What's the next step? And then to try to find allies. So there were lots of people in the city who realized that there needed to be a change,
Right.
because things were changing in the city, and they needed to realize extra revenue from businesses. And so making things easier for businesses was going to make that work for them. So finding what they needed, which was more revenue from businesses,
Right.
and then saying the best way to do that is make some changes here so businesses
Yeah,
it's
there
easier
you
for
go.
people to do business.
Right.
We could then marry those two and then find an alliance and then work with people to make it take place.
So do you think your coaching skills with the fencing actually helped you move through the city?
I would say, in part, I would say mostly it's being really patient. So as a coach, I have to be really patient with people.
Yeah.
There are people that have different levels of skills.
Right.
Different people. Some people are more coordinated. Some people are less coordinated.
Right.
Some people take to it easier than others. But you have to be patient with them and help them through. So probably being patient was the key ingredient in doing this, because if I had lost hope, or lost my patience, or lost my temper at some point during the process, it could have damaged the prospects of it going forward. So in large part, being calm, being focused, being patient helped to move it through and get it to happen. And it took about 4 months to get everything from start to finish with the law being passed. But in the long run, it's helped us. We save thousands of dollars that we would have spent otherwise in fees and things like that. And as a result, it's also then been a benefit to other new businesses since then.
So there you have it. If you want a great coach, you have to understand patience and never give up. And we have a great coach right here.
All right. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See you guys.